mayor, I wholeheartedly support the levy, and I was going to tell you a few reasons why. One thing, in order to have a great city, as the city of Stow and Munroe Falls, you have to have good schools. And the reason 37 years ago why my husband and I moved into Stow was because of the schools. We were living in an apartment at that time in Cuyahoga Falls, and we knew that we were going to have to leave because I was going to have a baby. And they said, once you have a kid, you're out of here. So we had to look for a house, and we did a lot of research about different communities, and we decided on Stow. And a great reason why was because there was, at that time, there was a lot of young neighborhoods, and the school had a terrific reputation. So I think, you know, people want to work in a community that has good schools. They want to have businesses in a community that has good schools. And so I think it's vital that we have good schools. So as a mayor, I really want to make sure that our school district is, as it has been, excellent for the last 6 years. And make sure I get that number right. And I think we need to continue that. And it's hard in this day and right now with the recession and everything that's hit. However, I think it's vitally important that we pay it forward. Somebody in the past helped you when you were going to school. And now it's the parents, and I'm a grandparent, and I'll soon be retired, so I won't be getting the same income, but I still think it's important to pay it forward. I really think that's vital that we do that. So those are some of the reasons. And also, what I'm concerned about with some of the cuts that will happen if this levy doesn't pass, in our city there will be a lot of congestion. This happened in 2002, and that was the last time that the buses were all taken away. And I remember it was very difficult to get around at that time. And it wasn't just it was for the kids getting to school, but it was for everybody in the city. So that's a concern. And I think the biggest thing that we have to think about are the kids themselves. And so, I taught for many, many years, and so I care about kids, obviously. I think we all do. And I think not being able to do a lot of the activities that they're used to having. Some kids are great just on the academics. Some kids aren't. Some kids need that extra, whatever it is in sports or plays or drama or the band or whatever it is, speech and debate. And that really helps them a lot of times get self-confidence to be well-rounded and mature adults. So I think there's so many reasons that we really need to keep our schools up to the excellence that we've been getting. So that's part of the reason, as a mayor, I really think it's really vital to pass this levy. And now I'd like to introduce Mayor of Munroe Falls, and Frank Larson, who we've worked together for the last 8 years, and so he's going to talk a little bit about the school levy also.
You know, it's time. This has been going on for quite some time, where we haven't had a levy pass, and it's going to start taking the toll on the children. Like Karen, I'm a grandparent. I have my wife and I have 7 children and 11 and a half grandchildren, and we've got. I think we have one in, last year we had 3 in the Stow Munroe Falls school system, and this year we're down to 1. But it also will take a toll on property values, on housing values, because like Karen said, it's one of the prime things that people look for when they go to start a family and buy a house. You know, what is the school system like? And you know, you cannot let it deteriorate to the point where it starts affecting the property values in the whole community, because then it makes it just 10 times as hard to bring back up. I know there's a lot of dissension, a lot of people are unhappy with different aspects of that. I encourage you, I got involved in politics because I was unhappy. I think that Munroe Falls is a great place to live now. And I won't be humble, I'll say that I think I made some very positive changes with Munroe Falls. So if I can do it, you can do it. Get involved if you're unhappy. Get involved, but don't cut the legs out from under the school. And that's about where we're at right now. You know, the system has to have enough money to keep working, and we can make positive changes that need to be made as it's functioning. You don't stop the train and from going down the tracks. You got to keep it going, because our children need to be educated. And you know, you just take a look at the way the world is changing, the way America is changing. It's going to be vital for the future of our children. Everything else is so unsure right now. The one thing that we can really invest in is their education. And you know, obviously, I don't make a whole lot of money, and I watch every penny I spend. But this is one of those investments that I will make. So I encourage you all to support the levy and work for it. So, are you going to introduce Chris? So,
Oh,
okay.
I'm waiting to hear, my daughter had medical tests today, and I'm waiting to hear she won't text me. It's all okay, it's just a goal.
Let us know if you're here.
So I know it is.
I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. We certainly appreciate you taking the time. I am really heartened to hear Mayor Fischel and Mayor Larson use the word kids and children so much, because schools are about children. That's what they're about. And with all the stuff we have to deal with, you know, taxes, and I didn't like this lunch program, I was upset with this teacher, or what have you, didn't like what Jones did. In the end, schools are about kids learning. That's what it's about. And we need to stay focused on that. It's about kids. When I first got here 6 years ago, someone said, "Russ, if you want to pass a levy, cut the bus. This guy." And I said, and a couple well-respected people told me that. I said, "We are not doing that. We are going to look internally first. We are going to tighten our belts, cut any fat we can cover. At the same time, keep it out of the classroom so our kids can achieve, because we're about academic achievement for our students." And we have done that. And I want to pass this out right now, because this really tells our story, and it shows people the kind of things that we have been doing to look internally.
Okay.
So while they're passing that out, again, I want to re-emphasize that we looked internally. Where can we reduce our costs so that we can fend off our deficit? Because that's what we have been doing. We've been facing a deficit for the last 5 years, and we have been cutting and cutting and cutting to deal with that. Just like anybody's household income or household situation. If your income is remaining constant and your expenses are rising, at some point those lines cross. And so to keep our financial nose above water, if you will, we have been reducing. I won't read all this stuff to you, other than to say that the first column says cost savings. That's the actual dollar figure that was saved by reducing these particular positions. So for example, the assistant superintendent, January of '06, that was about 3 weeks before I got here. Mr. Frisbee was the assistant superintendent, great man, fine administrator. And I was the principal at Talmadge. I had his 2 children in the building. They were just a wonderful family. He did a wonderful job as our assistant superintendent. When he retired, that position was not replaced. So that $120,000 is approximately represents his salary plus benefits. That we did not replace that. Now, if you look at the next column over cumulative savings, that it's kind of a hypothetical, but what we're saying here is if we would have replaced that position and that salary and benefit package would remain right there, we would have spent another $600,000 on that position, but we didn't. So you can go all the way through this, and the previous board was also very mindful of our financial situation and was involved in a number of these reductions, including the supplementals, high school guidance counselor, middle school receptionist, and also part of getting the employees to pay, they're planning to pay 5% in their health care. That was the previous contract. So those are some good steps, and you can see those savings adding. And then 2008, 2009, we had teaching positions that went away. We had administrative positions that went away. Not only was the assistant superintendent position eliminated, but also the business manager, one of the high school principals. We also had the assistant maintenance supervisor retired this summer. That position has not been replaced. There's 4 administrators out of a team of about 30. Probably about 12 or 13% of the administrative staff, as well as classified. A lot of the teaching positions we did through attrition, and those still count. Some people think that unless you walked up to somebody and gave them a pink slip and said you're out of a job, it doesn't count. But it does count. I'm proud that we had the foresight to see all this coming, and as people retired or left the district, we really looked very closely at who we really had to replace. So we did a lot of this through that whole attrition, people leaving the district and not replacing them. And again, I won't read all of this to you, but you can take a look. On the second page, community relations coordinator at the top, we have $60,000 listed there. We have since brought that position back at half of that salary, so it's a $30,000. So that's a correction that I want to make. But then if you look at that last page, under the cost savings column, we have eliminated $7.9 million from our budget in the last 5 years. And when I said we need to look internally to see what we can reduce, I think $7.9 million is an awful lot of money. The next column, the cumulative savings, it says $15.5 million. What that really represents is if we would have not made any cuts at all, we would have had to spend another $15.5 million to maintain all of this. So I don't think anybody, any reasonable person could say the district is not really tightened their belt, reduced their costs. While this was all going on, by the way, we got to the excellent rating by the state for the first time in the history of the school district. I got here on February 1st, 2006. The best rating the district ever had at that point was effective. Effective. Kids took the test in the next couple of months, and we got a report card in August, and we were continuous improvement. That's a step down from effective. I was interviewed by one of the TV stations in Cleveland, I forget which one, but one of the questions was, how do you feel about Stow being compared, Stow Munroe Falls being compared to Dayton? Because we have the same academic rating as Dayton. We got our academic program in place, paid real close attention to our special ed population because we weren't meeting their needs. We raised the expectations, and we got to excellent the next year. And then excellent with distinction, excellent with distinction. We've been excellent for 5 straight years. We just had a member of the State Board of Education come to our board meeting on Monday and present us with a banner recognizing us for excellence for 5 straight years. And also during that time, after asking the community for additional dollars, we got off the ballot for about a year and a half and went through a community engagement process. We went through 44 meetings and said, okay guys, we've asked, you said no, where do you want us to look to make reductions? And we got a list of 9 areas to look at, and we've implemented most of those, and we have a couple more on the table to take a look at. We really believe we've done what we can do. We're in real need. 2002 is the last time we've gotten additional dollars. Our costs have continued to rise, and we're at the end, and that's why we've got some real difficult reductions on the table. And I'm going to finish by talking about kids again. It's about kids. So many of these reductions are going to impact them. And we really need to be thinking about the folks who were taking care of us when we were in school. We need to take care of them. We've got about 5,300 kids counting on us.
We are pleased to have 2 students with us tonight who are going to talk. Laura, is there, and I'm sorry, I don't know. And Megan? Okay, great. And they're just going to talk to you a little bit about what the impact of not passing the levy will have on them.
Hi, my name is Munroe, and I'm a senior at the high school, and I'm vice president of the class for the seniors. I am president of Interact Club. I am treasurer of Spanish Club. I'm in NHS, and I'm captain of the varsity bowling team. The levy helps run all those programs. Without the levy, NHS induction goes out the door because all of the buildings will close. Any senior activities like senior banquet, senior recognition, after prom, all those go out the door. Since we really like those as a way of thanking us as we leave and go out to the system and into college. But mainly I'm here to talk about how it affects students and inside the classroom. I am in the class with 30 kids. There are 30 desks. There's no room for another desk. The more teaching positions that they get rid of, the student population goes up in those classrooms. There's no room. But also about pay to participate. Being in all those clubs, those are what really colleges look at. Colleges look at the extracurriculars, everything else beyond the academics. But the pay to participate, with every club being $100, those rank up. Like, I normally spend like $400 with everything I do a year, and that's a lot. And if you have, I know there's caps, but if you have a family cap and it goes up to $900, that's a lot.
Hello, my name is Megan Jennings. I'm a senior this year as well. I've been playing, the last 8 years, I've been playing in the Stow Falls Orchestra. I've been on the golf team for 3 years, and I'm co-captain for the second year in a row. I've been heavily involved in Key Club for 4 years since my freshman year. I've been in Japanese Club since my freshman year, and I'm now co-president along with another senior. Well, I'm also here to talk about the levy, but I'm also going to look at it from the point of view of how exactly the levy is structured, the actions that are being taken should the levy fail. Well, I'm going to start off with saying that high school, as we know, it's not all about education. This is going to sound really cliche, I know. It's about finding yourself, and it is. And I realized that when I started working at the clubs. I thought a few years ago, wow, I'm really interested in studying Japanese. There's one part. Classes, they teach us more than just to pass the OGT. And clubs, they're more than just filling up your extracurricular slot. And I do want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak, because I believe that administration has the stigma that we students don't care about what's going to happen if the levy fails. And I speak for everyone in the school district, our entire senior class and the underclassmen, that we do care. We know what's going on, we know what the consequences of the levy are, and that's why we're trying to convince everyone to please consider us. And that's what everyone was saying earlier, you know, think of the children. It may not seem so to some people that it's very important to us, but I believe that for every student, every new opportunity, that becomes a new pathway to success for everyone. You know, it may not seem so to some people, maybe to people who have forgotten what it's like to learn new experiences, being in all these clubs, doing these different activities. These experiences make a student want to say, I want to do this when I grow up. I want to help benefit the world by doing this. Maybe there's someone a competitor who decides he wants to benefit the community by becoming a doctor. That inspired him to become a doctor. Or the foreign language president decided, I want to become a diplomat. I want to help the world by doing this. The biggest source of anger was coming from the idea that the school was going to be shut down. Our high school was going to be shut down at 6 o'clock. I didn't mention this, but I have been involved in the drama club. I'm on and off. I'm not a very dedicated member because I'm in a lot of clubs. Last year, I helped build the set, and it was really surreal for me because I'd never done something like that. I literally spent every weekend, every Saturday, I would be building the set. And normally the school, and if this happened, the school's going to close on the weekend. And if the levy fails, the school's going to be shut down, and that means a lot of things for everyone. I spoke to some of the kids in the basketball team. He was extremely upset because we're not going to have any home games. If the school shuts down at 6, home games usually at 7. And that's where our source of money comes from as well. We get money from the home games. We don't get money from the away games. All the away games are going to be awful, you know? And we're not going, and we allow the language clubs, so we have after-school activities. And I'm in the orchestra. I was looking so forward to having my senior concert on May, whatever it was, the first weekend in May. I was so looking forward to that. We was going to have a senior concert. We were going to have our senior solo, and if we can't have it at the high school, that's really going to affect the orchestra. Same with the band kids. It's going to affect them too. It's extremely hurtful. You know, our school, it was, like we said, it was given the excellence rating. But if the opportunities given to us here continue to plummet, then our desire to perform, our desire to achieve is not going to continue. Like we said earlier, clubs give kids that boost of confidence. They want to work and they want to spread out. They want to make new friends and do all these opportunities. And that will help. I believe that will help them benefit in the real world. I think there is a way to fund a school without just shutting the lights off. There's a way to fund the school to save money without affecting the students. Like we said before, this is for the kids. We're suffering cuts. We're having our pay to participate double to nearly $1,000. And that is nearly $1,000. That's when the reality really hit me. I was upset when it moved to $450, but I thought, okay, my brother's playing basketball. I'm in like 5 clubs, so what? I can do whatever I want now. But now it's being doubled nearly $1,000. What is this? $450 for one sport. You know, one can misconceive that a plan is not blown by out cuts or being simply being made wherever. No, but I believe you can ask anyone, ask any of the students. They all have ideas on how money can be saved, and we have to raise money for our active prom. We have to find a way. Obviously, our prom wasn't cut. Everyone would have freaked out if our prom was cut. But it's not an activity happening at the high school. But our active prom is cut, unfortunately. We've been told for years that we're the future. At the last meeting I went to when I spoke, they tried to tell us you don't know the value of a dollar. But some of us come from one-paycheck families. Some of us come from parents who really don't have careers. Some parents aren't even working a good job. And maybe they may or may not know the value of a dollar, but some of us do. We know. We've been told that, you know, we control the future. This, you know, we're being raised to do something great. But if our opportunities continue to be revoked, where's that going to leave us? It's true that to the economy, sacrifices must be made, but I don't believe they should be made at the student's expense. So that's why I asked the citizens of Stow to please consider the levy and its benefits rather than just turning away just because you don't want to pay the money. Every dollar is worth a child's education.
Well, I think listening to Laura and Megan, we can see why they're so passionate about trying to get the levy passed. We have wonderful students here. wonderful students, and they really, in their heart, you can tell how much it matters to them. School is important. Learning is important, extracurricular activity is important, everything is important, and we need these young ladies to be our future leaders, and the kids in the grade schools to also do that. So it's vitally important, and it may be difficult, we might have to make some sacrifices, but I think education needs to be at the top. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. I was lucky I had a good education. My daughters both graduated from Stow School and went on to Miami of Ohio University, and my husband was very happy because they both graduated 4 years, so he was real happy about that. But really, you can see how this impacts 5,300 young lives, and that's what it does. So now we wanted to open it up, unless somebody else has something to say. We're going to open it up to discussion and questions, and however you would like to do it.
Well, we're going to come on up, our treasurer.
Yes, this is Kathy Baldwin, our treasurer. And also, I wanted to mention that we have 2 school board members here, Karen Wright and Karen Callis. Mike Barnes is co-chair of the Levy Committee, and he's in the back. And we already met Mayor Larson, so, okay.
We just thought we'd pull up some chairs and open it up for questions.
Hi, I'm Linda Trevorrow. I'm actually Laura's mother, and her sister also graduated from Stow. As a person who owns a home in Munroe Falls and owns a building in Stow, I kind of look at both communities. I'm also an employer. I can't begin to tell you how important it is to watch a student come out of Stow's school system and be well prepared for the workforce. As an employer, I am looking for the best and the brightest student possible. I don't want someone coming out of downtown Akron. I don't want to bang on Akron's school system, but right here we've got talent. We need to develop it. As an accountant, I can tell you your dollars are best spent in education. Without education, you cannot advance. I just look at the accounting profession and what it has looked like over the past 25 plus years. It has changed incredibly. The things that my girls are learning in school now, I was a product of Akron schools. I went to North. I can't believe what they're being challenged with in their classes. I am thrilled. When she comes home with these physics problems, I just kind of go, wow, I never did that. It was beyond what I did. They're being challenged. They're also, I'm now seeing the product of what Stow did for my older daughter. She's a senior at Mount Union. She is going to be well prepared to be a teacher one day. Stow's system obviously instilled in her education, education, education. That's all they've heard from me at home. And I know people don't want their taxes to go up. I hear it every single day. But we also have choices. We can decide not to go out to dinner one night and put the money toward our taxes. We can buy one less outfit. We can maybe spend a little less at Christmas. Those are some, we have these conversations in our office every single day. And education is the one thing that we talk about most often. Everybody who is a client is concerned about where their kids are going to go to school. They're concerned about what they're going to do in the future. We need smart kids to take care of us when we're older. I don't want that pharmacist who can't decide if it's 1 milligram or 1 microgram. It's a big mistake. They've got to know their fractions. They have to know all that. Coming out of this school system, I believe they'll learn it. We have to make sure that we ensure that. I think it's also our civic responsibility in a well-educated community to see the importance of education. And I would hope that every single person in this room can vote yes for that levy, can make sure that they get to the polls in November, and that they encourage people they know also to vote yes. I do believe that they have made sure that cuts have been made. Every single person in this community that pays taxes has been on their backs to cut, and to be transparent of how they spend their money. Trust that that's happening.
towards our school system? Like, because obviously we know it's gone down.
Correct.
Do we have any correlation where we can see the cuts that we made at the same time, the money that we got less from the state?
We actually cut, in relation to that, today we're short almost $2 million versus what we received last year. But over a period of time, our tangible personal property tax has been phasing out. And that, as far as 2010 goes, was a total of $3 million. And it will begin to phase out from us getting any of that as we move into the future. So in the forecast, we do have forecasted and projected those dollars leaving us, as well as 3 actual years in comparison to that. So it is factored in. We did use the forecast and use it as a management tool to help us plan for these kind of situations. And we have been consistently working the deficit and pushing it out further by making the cuts that we have. So we've been addressing cuts to stave off the deficit.
Is that in the 5-year forecast?
Yes.
Is that available, new and available online?
Yes, the last one published was in May. The October forecast will be published at the end of October. There will be a public presentation of that forecast on October 24th at the high school at 7 p.m.
Put the curtains on the red, hit the red dot on the website.
Yes, SOS on our website, SOS button, take you to the financials. You can also go to the treasurer's office page on our website, and underneath the picture of our kids are all the links. So there's a link to the forecast there and other financials.
Catherine works 24/7 too, so you can email her anytime.
Yeah, you might get a call at 8 o'clock at night from me. Are there any other questions?
I'll have another one since nobody's talking. In conjunction with, okay, let's just assume for a second, unfortunate if the levy doesn't pass, we're going to make the cuts instantly versus when we create the projections for the year. Obviously, our budget is a year-round budget. Why are we cutting instantly if the levy doesn't pass?
Well, if you look at the amount of the levy, $6.5 million a year would be generated.
Okay.
In November, if it passes, we begin those collections starting in January.
Okay.
You're going to pay your 011 taxes, and you'll get your first half bill in January of 012. Well, if that occurs, we'll only receive a half a year through June 30th, our fiscal year July 1 through June 30th. If it doesn't pass, we aren't going to get anything for that fiscal year. And if it passes, then we will have to ask again in 012. This is our last round of non-educational type cuts. And those would have to happen immediately to help, again, stave off that deficit. If it passes in 012, or we ask for it in 012, we will not collect our first collections until January of 2013. So not only will there be the cuts immediately, we will be addressing more cuts. And again, these are the last non-educational cuts. The more cuts we will be addressing will be academic programs. So, you know, again, our focus is on our future leaders of our world. And here they are. And look at the fine products that Stow schools turns out. It's compelling to hear leaders, the future leaders right here, stand up here and speak with all of you. I don't know if you were like that when you were that age, but how many kids did you know when you were that age that would do that?
I'm not like that. This.
It's just awesome, and it's just a tiny, tiny reflection of how many students are these type of leaders. And some things personally reminded me of the idea that we want these kids to get out into the world, be productive and successful, and we want to make them lots of money because that Social Security is going to be what we right? So, you know, in terms of paying it forward, there are investments, unintended consequences that we get from these type of tax increases as well, so.
Well, we do have two council members that are very recent graduates of Stow High School. Also, Mr. Razor is the real.
That's absolutely
So,
correct, yes.
That's true.
That is true.
And Mayor, is the council going to take their verdict? Is the council going to do a resolution to support?
You know, I'm not sure. I would have to talk to Janet D'Antonio. She's the president of council. I can't.
Generally, you do.
I can't tell council what to do.
Yeah.
I like to sometimes, but I can't do it. But I'll mention that.
The one thing I can do, I serve on the board for the local chamber of commerce. I will take it to our board meeting and see if the chamber will also offer an endorsement.
Chamber does. I'm not, you know,
But
that's.
it has to be presented at our board meeting, which would be our next meeting in October. So I will make sure that that is offered up at the board meeting in October.
Right, and I'll ask Janet what she
And I, you know, for the 360 members of the chamber, of the Chamber of Commerce, they want employers also. They want the best and brightest people working for them too. And all of those people pay lots of taxes also. They pay the withholding taxes. They want the community to be a wonderful community. They don't want to live or work in a community that probably doesn't support a strong education program. Education grows business too. It really does. Yes.
I guess a couple of questions or discussion. You had mentioned in the other evening at the board meeting that at some point, if the levy doesn't pass or doesn't pass, it may be like a state takeover. I guess just maybe what does that mean? And then the second question is, I don't know what year in the forecast, but at some point it grows, like the deficit grows like $9–10 million a year, something like that, right? That you're basically unfunded $9–10 million a year. How can we communicate to the public that in order to reduce that amount of money, that's like a third of the workforce, right? I mean, in some kind of number like that. I don't think people realize the magnitude of what's going on. I guess is what I'm trying to tell you. I mean, I understand it. I'm a finance person. But I think the general public just doesn't understand that workforce.
You're absolutely correct. It is something we struggle with as a school district, and I'll take it back to before I even came here. In 2002, the last time new money was passed in our community. On average, in the state of Ohio, because of how we're funded, every 2 to 3 years, on average, school districts have to increase their taxes. 2002 is the last time this district increased taxes, and not because we didn't ask as a school district.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, you can cut positions and those kind of things, and I don't totally understand negotiations with unions and what you can talk about publicly versus behind closed doors, basically. But can you make cuts to contractual salaries? I mean, you know, I think you guys have to think in order to reduce this deficit, we would have to cut salaries 25% and/or cut the workforce 30, 40, 30-some%. I don't know what the percentage is. I'm just, making talking points.
Well,
But
one of the things that we did do,
I mean, that's a drastic change to the amount of people helping us. Sorry, kids.
and we just recently negotiated 2-year contracts with all of the employees, and
Right, but
unprecedented.
even if you said, okay, if we would have went in and said, which you kind of during the public, get cuts, get teacher concessions, which you guys did, but what if you cut their salaries by 5%? What's that worth? What is that really worth? I mean, I think people don't really understand what's that worth.
I think
It's not very much.
one way,
To cover the $9–10 million
Right.
a year in whole.
it's not going to be 6.5 million a year, and over a period of time, that's not going to keep us whole anyways. It just stays off that deficit. You did ask about the emergency situation, and that is a set into law, and it has 3 phases. It's like our weather: watch, caution, and emergency. And it's structured where the state is, and that's why we submit forecasts. The state is monitoring school districts in Ohio and making sure that we are projecting. They look at the first 3 years and projecting out where we're going to be and addressing any issues that might be upcoming, because, as a matter of fact, every 2 to 3 years, new income is needed to absorb cost increases. So the situation for an emergency is if you are projecting a deficit in the year you're in, they'll consider you an emergency right there. Or if you're projecting a deficit within the first 3 years, you may be considered in watch, caution, or emergency. They look for 2% of your state revenue number. If that's what your bottom line represents, they could consider you an emergency. And one of the other things they take into consideration as they look at those projections and the deficits that you're projecting is your community supportive of the education system? And will they support it as you move closer to that deficit? When it's been 10 years since new money has been passed, and they have on record that we have asked for levies, we have to submit to them how we are addressing any upcoming deficits, either by passing or both. And so they're watching that. And we could be solvent for those 3 years and not even hit the 2% trigger number, and they could deem us in, emergency because our community's not supporting us. What does that mean? What it means is the state does take over the school system. They create their own 5 board members. So this board and this management will not have the decisions anymore. And the first thing they do is, from some other districts that have gone through this, is they cut you to state minimums. Essentially what we're doing after this levy, if it were unsuccessful in November, is going to the state minimums. The cuts we're making in the busing are state minimums. They won't come in and check with the community. They won't listen to the students. They will come in and start shaving. And it's out of our control then. It is your tax dollars primarily supporting this school system. Why shouldn't you have the say in how your education is the way it's
But getting to the state minimum,
as far as state education, will be gone.
Some examples of state minimums would be high school's a 5.5-hour school day, elementary buildings would be 5-hour school day. So, you start.
like what type of classes and stuff?
Yeah, you would also eliminate the specials at the elementary, so no art, gym, music at all. We would look at specials, we've got special offerings like music and foreign language at the middle school. Those would go away, just the basic stuff. There would be things at the high school as well, probably AP programs, other items that, and we're proud of our AP program at the high school. We've been preaching rigorous curriculum, academic achievement. Kids, challenge yourself with the most rigorous curriculum. We've added, European AP European history was added this year. We've added a number of forensics and on. Those are the kind of things that make us what we are. And those are the kind of things that will go away.
I encourage my kids to do the same thing, so I totally agree with you.
I have a 21-year-old that graduated from Stow, and it was nice to hear that young lady. She was in Japanese club. She did very well in school. She actually went to cosmetology program, the Tri-C. She excelled in math and science, and when she wanted to go to Kent to the cosmetology program, I almost put her in with Chrissy in the intelligent program. Why are you doing this? We're blue collar workers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to have your brains and what you have as a woman and to be able to do these things, why are you doing it? She's like, Mom, I can't believe we're in high school. She's like, I'm going to cut hair, I'm going to go to school. She ended up in Eugene, Oregon. She's now in Albuquerque and University of New Mexico, 21 years old. Wow. She's benefiting our company. So
So I've been through the school system, and we support the school system. I also have a 14-year-old right now that's a freshman. But I just think I just don't want to be fair to assess that every parent that wouldn't be for a levy, and I'm not saying whether I am or not, to assume that we aren't for the children or education. Because I'm a perfect example. I've had a kid that's graduated that's benefited from it, from everything in it. My son right now, he's doing well, he's in band, loves school, he's come out of his shell. The high school's been a wonderful, wonderful place for him. I've worked with the school, I used to work with Sheridan Sweets, I worked with the school system, and I know that you do a lot to keep the school running as it should and for the kids. A question I would like to ask, just when we say community, community is everyone. It's everyone that lives in Stow, it's not just a homeowner. It's everyone. Anyone who has a child that's gone to school, anyone that hasn't had a child in school, because as you say, we're all responsible for the city in one way or another. And if we're proud of it and we're living here, we'll support each other. Is there just different options than a tax levy on the homeowner? I mean, the sales tax. I have a friend that looked into other school systems and other counties and the sales tax. Something like that, something that would include everyone, that would make a homeowner feel more, okay, everybody's supporting this. You know, I just don't know if these options have been
I can take the
investigated.
sales tax one, and then maybe you can take the earned income tax. Sales tax, great question. Sales tax, we don't make up the rules, we just play by the rules. So the sales tax in the state of Ohio is a county-wide initiative. So for that to happen, which it did happen in Diamond, they have less school districts than we do in Summit County, because what we would need to do is to get all 17 school districts in Summit County to agree, and all of those 5-member boards of education to agree that we want to ask all of Summit County to pass a sales tax. So that's the first thing, which is very difficult. For example, we've talked about this with the superintendents. Revere, for example, I should clarify this. Sales tax can only be used for permanent improvement functions. Permanent, we're really tied up with our dollars and how we can spend them. We have like silos of funds. Like general fund, we have Title I, IDA for handicapped kids. We have a permanent improvement fund. The permanent improvement fund, we can't use it for salaries and stuff. We can only use it for items that we believe are going to last 5 years or more. So things like roofs, paving, building repair, that's what the permanent improvement fund is for. So where the law is now, the sales tax, any proceeds from the sales tax can only be used for permanent improvement dollars. So that would help, absolutely, because our current permanent improvement fund is about $660,000 a year, which in a district like this is a third of what we really need to do it right. Now, one of the arguments that we had, we need to get all 17 districts on board. Revere said, we've got Revere, they're half our size of Boston. They've got a $1.2 million permanent improvement fund that the voters approved. So the superintendent at the time said, we don't want to get involved with this because we know we're going to have to ask for an operating levy down the road. We don't want to confuse our voters. We already have enough permanent improvement dollars, and that's all we can use if those dollars come in. So we don't want to be a part of this. In Akron, for example, they had an operating levy going on. He said, Sylvester, who happened to be the superintendent at the time, said, I'm not going to, Sylvester Small, I'm not going to stop you guys, but I can't campaign for it. So there's that's a real difficult one to make happen, and it won't solve what our levy's asking us to.
And if this is something within our authority, we could put on the ballot anyways and sort of get your county commissioner that does that. And all I would say is if we ever